Yeah, that's good. We want good.
Gentlemen, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Stallworth, yeah.
Okay, you ready to bring this NIAA Regulations Committee, Realignment Committee meeting agenda for this Monday, February 13th, 2023 to order. I'm gonna go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please. Tia,
Roland Stallworth,
I am here.
Pamela Sloan,
Here.
Art Anderson,
Here.
Mike Brooks,
Here.
Sean Fitzsimons,
Here.
All right, thank you, sir.
Ron Herzog,
Here.
Here.
Ken Higby,
Here.
Dallas Larson,
Here.
Kevin McFarland,
Here.
Ray Parks,
Here.
Mike Strong,
Here.
David Vick,
Here.
Brett Walter,
Here.
Mike Hofer,
Here.
Donnie Nelson,
Here.
Paul Anderson,
Here.
Bart Davis,
Here.
Robert Northridge,
Present.
and Tia Winter.
All right, Chair Stallworth, Co-Chair Sloan, I'm gonna turn it over to you for item number 4 on the agenda, please. Mr. Stallworth, you first. Any comments?
Nope, I'm just ready to go. It looks like we have a pretty well established agenda here and we're ready to go. Just like always, please make sure you introduce yourself and speak loudly so we know who you are. And we're excited to get some conclusion to this as we move forward. Thank you. Pam?
I have nothing to say at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Chair Stallworth, again, Donnie Nelson from the staff. Within this, just before we get to public comment, there is an announcement and a clarification need to make. So this is probably the appropriate time to do that. As the committee knows, Rancho High School did submit a letter of appeal based on their placement in 5A3 to go to the 4A. To be clear, our office staff made an oversight and honestly made a mistake, and that Rancho does not need to appeal. And the reason being is they were in the 3A last year, and per procedures, they cannot jump 2 classifications. So going from the 3A to the 5A was not appropriate in doing that. So when we get to the alignment and that agenda item, I will show where that has been redone. And we have Rancho correctly placed in the 4A. I'll talk about the re-serpentine of how the teams went in that regard. But again, Rancho High School does not need to appeal within the presentations. And then also to that regard, heading to number 5, I know we do have one public comment from the school and a committee. Again, you also received this information from our desk as of this morning, and that will come up from the school here in public comments. But other than that, I think that will lead us into number 5, unless I'm missing something, anybody from the committee.
Thank you. So do I read the public comment or do we?
Yes, please, Mr. Stallworth.
I need to get that part done and get that taken care of. Okay, good. Agenda item number 5, public comment. This time provides an opportunity for citizens to address the committee about any matter not on the agenda. Item raised during this portion of the agenda cannot be deliberated or acted upon until compliance of notice procedures of the open meeting law have been accomplished. Members of the public who wish to submit their comment via email were instructed to contact Tia Wonder prior to the meeting to have their comments read into the record. Members of the public present need to complete a green public comment card, and submit it to the administrative assistant prior to the opening of this item. A limit of 3 minutes per person and/or 5 minutes for a spokesperson of a group may be imposed in both in-person and email comments. It is requested that comments be directed to the committee as a whole. Comments that are determined to be irrelevant, repetitious, offensive, inflammatory, willfully disruptive, or deemed to be personal attacks will not be permitted. Public comments received by email will be read into the record. Live public comments, if any, has been requested, will be heard. As the locations above and about, please announce yourself.
And so, yes, Chair Stallworth, we will start off with a public comment from Cimarron Memorial High School. We will work to bring Mr. David Fields into the meeting at this time. We'll wait and see when we have Mr. Fields here.
Logged in as Mr. McNaught, and they are ready, I believe.
Okay, very good. Mr. Fields, welcome. And we'll have 5 minutes for your public comment. And again, to let everybody know, again, there was an attachment that was sent out to the committee members this morning, which is what I believe Mr. Fields will allude to and read to. So with that said, David, if you're the one presenting, that is correct. Or if not, then please introduce who will be presenting on behalf of Cimarron Memorial High School. Please, your name and title, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Coach Shane Caney. I'm the head football coach here at Cimarron Memorial. Sitting in this room with me, I have our athletic director, Dave Fields, and our principal, Colin McNaught. And we are here to try to appeal to go down to the 4A from the 5.3A. Are we good to go?
Yeah, yes, sir. You are
Okay.
making to you have your clock is started running when you made your first comment, but yes, you have 4 minutes and 45 seconds, sir. So go ahead.
Okay. Our concern is that we may have to play from the top tier of the 5A. To my understanding, if there's a scheduling conflict amongst the top tier of the 5A, then they are subject to play the 5.1, 5.2, 5.3. Theoretically, my principal and I do not feel comfortable with the idea of playing Bishop Gorman, Liberty, or Arborview and some of the other schools at that level. When the realignment was originally introduced, the NIAA specifically stated that 2 teams would go up and 2 teams would possibly go down. Excuse me. However, with this realignment, that is not the case. Centennial High School and Canyon Springs High School were able to move from the 5A, surpassing through the newly different levels of 5A all the way to 4A. And at the top of page 3 on the football alignment document that was sent to us, enrollment schools continue to build football programs. Centennial High School has managed to have 3 teams over the course of the last few years and youth programs to build their teams. So we are in question as what they are trying to build. Please keep in mind that Centennial High School is also getting rezoned to increase their student enrollment. In terms of Canyon Springs High School, they have a magnet program, which gives them the opportunity to recruit students and athletes to their school without having repercussions to the student athlete. Much like Centennial, they were moved to the 4A in dramatic fashion, but they are classified as to continue to build a football program. And I would question, where is the equity in that? Cimarron Memorial has not been rezoned, nor do we have a magnet program to build our football team. Our current school zones right now are extremely transient due to our massive amounts of apartments, renters, and Section 8 housing. In order to build our football program, we rely on visiting our feeder middle schools, and not only us going there, but us hosting them. And this makes it extremely tough. Our feeder middle schools feed into Palo Verde High School, Centennial High School, Cheyenne High School, Western High School, and Bonanza. And with these surrounding high schools, it makes it extremely hard and challenging for us to not only have a varsity team, but also a JV team. So far in these last couple of years since the original realignment, in terms of wins losses since the last realignment, we have gone 4-8 in the previous competitive years. We have gone, what am I saying? We have gone, 8-12. I apologize. We have gone 8-12, and we have beaten 1 3A school. Most of those losses have come to schools that are ranked higher than us on the document that was sent out recently. To go on even further, we have given up 508 points in the last 2 years. We have only scored 380 points in the last 2 years, which is a 128-point difference, most of which have come from teams that are in a higher position in accordance to the recent document. Financially, as a community, we cannot compete in these 5A schools in the sense of financial background. At Cimarron Memorial, if we were to charge for lunch, we'd be sitting at a 89.19% of our students receiving free and or reduced lunch. In terms of a median household income from our feeder zip codes, financially, our households are right about $62,000, which is lower in comparison to the other median incomes from some of the surrounding schools. For example, the median income at Western is $41,000, Palo Verde is $78,000, and Centennial is $74,000, with Cheyenne at $63,000. Now, this makes it extremely hard for us to compete for some of those 5A schools, since they are allowed to charge for football programs, which here at Cimarron, we believe our football program to be free. But some of these other schools are asking student athletes to pay $250 to $600 for travel, equipment, and food. And some of that cost does go to college camps that are out of state, which again makes it another challenge for us to compete with our limitations. During this realignment process has been extremely frustrating with the different drafts that we have been distributed, and none of them have been consistent. With the lack of consistency, it makes it extremely challenging for us to put together our upcoming plan for the 2023 season. Excuse me, I apologize.
Yep, and Coach, you have 30 seconds left, so I'll let you just give you a heads up, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So needless to say, in terms of for our player safety, our athlete safety, and for the respectability of our school, it is important to us that we stay in the 4A to be competitive at that level. With our current demographics and our current constant trying to rebuild and trying to get our program where we believe it should be, we believe we do need to be in the 4A in regards to that matter, just to stay competitive for our community. And with that, Mr. Nelson, that would conclude our appeal process, I believe.
Yeah, then thank you, Coach. I appreciate your comments. Again, Coach and Mr. Fields and Mr. McNaught too, just so you know, the letter that was submitted, again, just to reiterate, has been sent to the realignment committee. So, and I know you didn't get to, Coach, read the last about paragraph and a half of that. I know you kind of summarized that there when I gave you the 30-second warning, but our committee has the time to certainly read this all the way through, just so it's full transparency, okay? So again, this is a public comment time. We can address anything with regard to Cimarron Memorial when we get into the agenda item about our league setup and alignment. And at that point, there may be the opportunity to ask any other questions or something along that nature. So what I would have probably do then, Mr. Stallworth, is Chair Stallworth, I would turn it back over to you, and we'll need to go into approval of the agenda, but only first, and we'll make sure there's no other public comments. I know we sent out the revised vision with Rancho and that jumping to all the principals, athletic administrators, and athletic directors of the 4A schools in which Rancho was to then be reassigned based on our office's error about the jumping of 2 classifications. And it's not about 5A, 1, 2, or 3. It's about 3A to 5A. Make that very clear. Still a classification of 5A with the 3 divisions, still a 4A with 2 leagues, and still a 3A with 1 league. So with that said, Ms. Wonder, do we have any other public comment at this time?
We do not.
Okay. I didn't see anything else in my email right before I jumped on here. I wanted to wait till the last minute. So let's see here. Yes, so Mr. McNaught, here's what we're going to do for you. Okay, we're going to put you back into the waiting room at this time. All right, that doesn't mean we're exiting you from the Zoom meeting, but you'll go back to the waiting room. And then when we get to the agenda item, you can continue to watch, of course, on the YouTube feed, but be available for us, okay? And I can text Mr. Fields if the committee wants to bring you back in, that'll be the proper procedures. We'll do that at this time, okay? So don't be offended that we drift you off, but that would be the way we need to do it after the public comment. Okay, sir?
Fine, it's for the
Okay,
best.
thank you. So yes,
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so Mr. Davis, yes, if you would please, we'll have Cimarron back into the waiting room and then call upon if necessary. Okay, any other committee members, any other public comment that you've received that we're not aware of in our office that we need to divulge at this point? Anything? Okay. All right, Chair Stallworth, then I believe we are ready to go to item number 6, looking for approval of this agenda, flexible motion. Everybody knows the routine.
Thank you very much. We'll go to agenda item 6, approval of February 13th, today's 2023 for possible action.
I think everyone needs to be muted unless you're not speaking.
Is that me making the double?
No, I think it's Dr. Higby. Dr. Higby, if you can hear us, if you can get back onto a mute for yours, please. Thank you, sir. Okay. All right, looking for a motion.
Okay, yeah, looking for a motion.
Kevin McPartland, 45 South. I'll make the motion to accept the agenda.
Thank you.
Ray
Kevin.
Parks, I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. We have a first and a second. Any other questions or discussions regarding the approval of the meeting agenda? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to agenda item 7, the amendments to the realignment committee procedures for possible action. Mr. Nelson.
Yes, thank you, sir. We're gonna have Mr. Davis from our staff bring up the procedures document. And again, what it is in here, we're looking for a motion. This is for possible action to amend these procedures out of this body first. And then from here, we would take it to the Board of Control in our emergency meeting on March 2nd to have the board ultimately approve amendments to the procedures. And we have 3 items that we're looking at. The first one is on page 2. Again, you have received this as an attachment, committee members, that I sent to you. Mr. Davis, if you would please scroll to page 2 and we'll look at item number 4, A and B. And so what we ran into, based on number of schools being required or minimized for each of the football realms, we had to add in a phrase to, in essence, allow us to go a little further than what we've been doing. And you can see that under 4A and B, simply putting the expression other than football in there, so we don't get locked into a certain position with number of teams. Obviously for the 3A now, and the way that alignment is set, it is at 8 schools in the south. And then as you look at 4B in the north, same thing, we are now at 8 schools based on what's currently proposed. Again, both the south and the north, A and B under number 4, those are about enrollment protections only. And that's how we got to this point as part of this entire structure of the football realignment. So we've got A and B that we would look to get a motion for. And then also, before we do that, if you look at number 5, this is on page 3. Thank you, Mr. Davis, for scrolling down to that. 5B and then 1, Roman, then they identify the schools for the 5A South. Again, the same thing, other than football into this one as well. So it's a very simple addition of 3 words in each of those 3 areas that we feel like then keeps us in compliance with the realignment procedures. And again, obviously we did it for other than football because as we've gotten to this point so far in realignment through the fall season, again, not even looking ahead to the winter and spring, but that this is a football-based issue where we're heading is obviously different for football than it has been for any other fall sport and may continue to be different than it would be for any other winter or spring sport. But again, we're not there yet. Those realignment meetings are coming up ahead. So any questions with regards to page 2, 4A and B, and then to page 3, 5B1. Any questions to those?
And the only change was just to add other than football into those sections.
That is correct, Mr. Stallworth. And again, because football is going in a different format and how we're aligning this, as we've all gone through, compared to other sports through the fall season, football needed to be, in essence, separated from other sports because of the number of teams or lack thereof in a particular region or classification. So yeah, we feel like we're running this by legal counsel. We feel like we're in compliance. And again, this would be a first step for the realignment committee to give this blessing in action. Then again, we still take it to the Board of Control on March 2nd for final approval.
Fantastic. Good. So now we're looking for a motion.
That is correct, sir.
Hey, real quick, Rollins or Donnie, Ray Parks. So do you see this potentially happening in the other sports? So we need to make it more broad, or you just want to stick with football right now?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Parks, for asking that question. Personally, as your executive director, I want to keep it to football specific. Yeah, this is a sport issue that we've been dealing with the realignment. I never want to predict what may or may not come ahead in the winter or spring sports, but the intent for this is to strictly address this as football.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to amend the terminology to include other than football in item 5, section B, subcategory I.
Also, Mr. Park, sorry not to lead you in your motion, but the same thing would go for number 4, A and B on page 2 as well. Three total places.
Okay, in
All three
addition to the,
locations.
yeah, in addition to my motion that talked about the first ones, let's add to amend 4A and 4B, adding other than football to those as well.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
Dallas Larson, 3A South. I'll second that motion.
We have a first and we have a second. Thank you, Dallas. Any other questions or discussions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Who was I?
We have a couple of opposed.
No, sir, I don't believe so. I think it was unanimous there. The ayes just came in at different times, but I believe we don't need to do a roll call on this, I don't believe. Just make sure, any no's, one last call for any no's. Okay, I think we're good, Mr. Stallworth.
Okay, good.
All right. So let's go then to Chair Stallworth, let's move along to agenda item number 8, please.
Agenda item number 8, hearings of NIAA member schools and or districts regarding the recommendations of the Realignment Committee for the alignment of 5A, 4A, and 3A schools and the postseason tournament format for the 23-24, 24-25 school years in the sport of football. The hearing will include appeals by schools recommended for placement into the classifications by which they believe they should be assigned for the 23-25 alignment cycle for possible action.
All right, Chair Stallworth, I'll take this over. Donnie Nelson from the staff. So again, we had one originally submitted by the deadline, and that was from Rancho High School. As I stated earlier in our chair and co-chair announcements, including executive director's announcements, we have been able to withdraw that, but it was not needed based on an error on staff. And that Rancho cannot jump from the 3A to the 5A, skipping 2 classifications. So there is not other appeal at this point finalized. We have heard public comment from Cimarron Memorial. We'll address that in number 9. If you don't mind, committee, what I want to do, just for full transparency, I haven't seen anything on my text message or my phone. I do want to run one last time to my office, which is right next door, and make sure I'm not missing something on that email that I would otherwise not see here on this screen. So just give me 30 seconds, because again, I don't want to exit out of number 8 if there's something that we've missed. This is the end of the road for appeals and going forward, especially when we get to number 9. So if you would, bear with me for 30 seconds, okay? I'll be right back. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Tia, you have not seen anything, received anything, correct?
I do not have anything to add.
Make sure, quick here. Nope, all right, here. All right, thank you, everybody. I do not see anything else on my email. And again, it was very important that I wanted to be as transparent as possible with all of our 4A schools because of the move of Rancho being inherently placed into the 4A, as we talked about earlier. I want to make sure that we didn't have any other issues of anybody seeing that based on the reserpentining of league alignments. And again, so that got sent out to principals, athletic administrators, and athletic directors to let them know what was going on. So with that said, anything else? I can't think of anything else for number 8 then. We don't have one, which maybe that's a first ever. I don't really know. I'm not having an appeal. So, and anybody else miss anything that anybody else knows of?
Donnie, Dallas Larson, 3A South. On the postseason tournament formats, would that include whatever meetings you've had with the Raiders about getting 2 days in Allegiant?
Mr. Larson, thank you. Yeah, that is something we still have to work on, okay? So just so you know, our intent is to try and get, as we know, 2 days, that means 2 consecutive years in Allegiant Stadium. As I noted earlier, I cannot promise that at this point. So when we get into tournament formats, I know what you're alluding to, we're talking about semifinals, possibly crossing over in the 3A. We would go forward with the understanding that we have a north-south final. We'll get to that number 9 here in just a minute, but we'll get, this isn't a hearing for that. But so let me wait till number 9, Mr. Larson, before I comment on that, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make sure we exit number 8 first. I don't get out of compliance here with our agenda item at hand.
Yeah, I just didn't know if this was the right one, 8 or 9. I didn't know which one dealt with that.
Yeah, no, thank you. It would be under number 9. So anything else on this on number 8? I don't believe we have any appeals.
Nothing from our office either, up north here.
Ms. Sloan, Co-Chair Sloan, anything from your office on 8?
No, nothing from our office.
Okay, then we do not need, Chair Stahl, we do not need any action on number 8. There's nothing that needs to take place.
Okay, good.
Mike Kofor, Charter School Liaison, isn't this the time where Cimarron needs to officially appeal?
So to clarify that, Cimarron Memorial's letter of public comment was submitted after the deadline. It was received this morning, on Monday morning. So we are going to give Cimarron Memorial due diligence, but to do it properly, it'd actually be underneath number 9. Okay, that's where the committee could listen and ask questions to Cimarron if it wishes to do so. But it is not an official appeal under number 8 because of the timing of it. So we'll address it in number 9 in just a minute. Okay. Okay. Any last call for anything else on 8? All right, Chair Stallworth, if you would, let's introduce this to number 9, and then Mr. Davis is going to go grab back our alignment and put that back on the screen here as we go to number 9. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Give Davis just Mr. Davis just a minute. We'll get that for us.
Okay, we're going to review the placement appeals and tournament formats for 5A, 4A, 3A in the sport of football, and the adoption of the Realignment Committee proposal for possible action. The Realignment Committee will finalize this proposal for the alignment of schools in the classes 5A, 4A, 3A for football and postseason playoff format for those alignments.
All right, thank you, sir. Don Nelson from the staff. There you see it, 5A. Division 1 is a South only league of 7, and we will. It's all spelled out for you there. We'll go to let's go to the next page. Any questions on 5A1? Let's just do that. Any questions on 5A1? Any of the committee members? Okay. I know we've been through this a couple times now. All right, let's go to 5A Division 2 South. We'll get to the north later, and same thing there. You see our 7 teams that are there. And we talked about earlier, as I know the Coach Association is probably listening in the South about matching over non-league games between 1 and 2 and filling that, in essence, that 7th game, six league games and the 7th game, and matching 1 and 2 to do that. They may do that. You know, our office doesn't mandate a team has to play a non-league game against somebody, but I know that schedule will be built in. And as I've stated publicly, as we started this process, that both teams would need to agree to not play a game when it gets put on the schedule for between 1 and 2 in the bye weeks. Okay, so both teams would agree not to play it. Otherwise, I know the schedule's going to be worked on as soon as we finish this meeting. With that said, then let's go to 5A3. Thank you, Mr. Davis. And so this is where our talking point comes in. So as you notice there in the red italicized, it was 7 teams originally, right? We went top 7 in Division 1 in the South, next 7, 8 through 14, Division 2, those stay. 5A Division 3, which was going to be the next 7 teams of 15 through 21. Rancho was number 21. Again, we excluded them from having to appeal because they cannot jump from the 5A to 3A. So when we scroll down in just a minute, not yet, you'll see Rancho being in the 4A. What that does then for the 5A Division 3 for the next 2 years, even with movement, it will have 6 teams in the 5A Division 3. Now, what I would say is that's not a big deal in Division 3 because it does match up with the 5A Division 3 in the North, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Also having 6 teams, we're still going to have a South, we're still going to have a North from each in the 5A Division 3 playing towards a state championship. And this is then where Cimarron Memorial has made its public comment. And if there are committee members that are interested in asking questions and bringing Cimarron Memorial staff back into this, we're more than welcome to. Again, they're in the waiting room right now. But you see there right now, we have 6 teams. And I would still say, again, based on the talent level being so equal in the South between different divisions, as you get away from one, but the next 2 combined, or like 2 and 3 being close, and 5A 3 and 4A being pretty close, that I still stay with that. Even though there were 6 teams now in the 5A 3 South, that we still keep movement between 2 teams. Still keep movement between 2 teams, not reduce it to 1. I think that creates for a great atmosphere after year 1. And so if somebody is really struggling after 1 year, or they really are in the bottom two, even of a 6-team, 5A Division 3 South, they will get to move. It is 1 year. It's different than 2, which is kind of, again, kind of fun and exciting about this process. So with that said, committee members, we'll hold right here for a minute and how you see it. Again, Cimarron Memorial's made public comment. Are there any committee members that would like to bring Cimarron Memorial back in? Again, it's not an appeal, but it can become that pseudo appeal, I guess. You know, again, full transparency for Cimarron Memorial. Anybody want to bring Cimarron Memorial back into the room for questioning?
So I don't necessarily want to bring them back into the room unless the question that I ask pertains to them directly, but I'd like to talk to Bart Davis a little bit about the realignment and the rubric points that were used to determine who these 6 schools were. It looks like, are these schools based, Bart, on those realignment numbers from Desert Oasis down to Legacy? Were those rubric, is this an indication of those rubric points? And how many of these schools that are out of these 6 were in the 4A last year, and they are also moving up to this 5A3?
Mr. Stallworth, Bart Davis, NIAA staff. As you look at this is a proposal, obviously, that came, the genesis of it was Mr. Nelson, as he has mentioned in previous meetings. These schools were indeed the next in line, rubric-wise, for the cycle. Were they all 4A last year? No, they were not. Palo Verde was a 5A school last year.
Okay.
Yeah, and Chair Starr, Donnie Nelson, the staff, just that is why, again, I specifically put numbers by each school's name as we worked our way through this process. And again, dividing out by, you know, basically drawing a line after 7 and 7, and in this case now 6 because of what's happened with Rancho. But those numbers correspond to their rubric points. Again, what I always tell people, right, wrong, or indifferent, whether you like the rubric or not, whether we have the rubric still used in 2 years to start with a new football realignment cycle or any other sport, that's to be determined. But we do have rubric points that are being used for this year because that is within our policies and procedures to use rubric points for placements in all sports. So the rubric system does exist, and those numbers that are based there are the rubric point standings after the 21 and 22 football seasons. That's where they are. Where they.
Okay, good. Now the 15 through 20 that are here listed, is Cimarron Memorial the only one that was in the 4A last year?
No, Palo Verde was in the 5A last year. Legacy was also in the 5A last year. The remainder of those schools were 4A schools.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland, I know you had your hand up. Go ahead, sir.
Great, thank you. Yeah, no, I want to just reiterate kind of the point that you made is, the rubric is all we had. And so, we have to go by the rubric right now. I didn't get a chance to speak to Cimarron. I didn't know until we got the email that they were going to do public comments or had missed the appeal deadline. So I think, you're looking at the numbers, and by rubric, they're right in the middle of that group. I think the idea of Centennial and Palo Verde, by perception, I agree. It feels weird that just with their enrollment and their student population that they are where they are, but that's where the rubric points are. But I think that's the beauty of this plan is once we get to it and get it engaged, it's just competitive balance, right? You play those teams in your group, and if you truly are misplaced, you're at the bottom and you'll move down. If you are in the wrong one because you're too strong for that, it'll show itself in a year and you're not stuck for 2 years. So I don't disagree with any of the points Cimarron necessarily said. But because all we have is the rubric, I think it has to ride the way it is, in my opinion. And if they end up being team number 19 and 20, it'll resolve itself in 1 year.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Rollins, this is Pam. Can I just make a comment real quick?
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to an earlier conversation. I know there's been a lot of conversation. I think there's some misinformation going out there, and I don't know where it's coming from in regards to a crossover game. It is not mandatory. I know that schools, especially in the 5A3, are concerned that they're going to end up playing teams mandatory crossover with the 5A1. I just want it to be known that the crossover may occur. It's not, it has to occur. It's optional. So I think we need to put that to rest because, like I just said, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding and people think that it's a given, and it's not.
you know, and I'm going to jump in there too. Yeah, that was my second point too, Pam. Thank you so much. Yeah, they're team number 18, right? And so they can, if they were going to schedule out a league, they could do 8 through 14 or drop down to the 4A and do 22 to 34. I didn't see a reason why they would schedule themselves with teams 1 through 7. I don't think there's any mandate of that, so I don't know how that plays, but I agree with you. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you both, Ms. Sloan, Ms. McFarland. I appreciate your comments. That is correct. You're both right on. Any other questions from committee members or any desire to bring Cimarron Memorial into the room? Going once? Going twice? Okay, with that then, Mr. Davis, would you continue to scroll down, please, and let's look at our amended 4A. So what you have here again, so team number 21, Rancho, which was again originally in the proposal set up to be a 5A Division III school, to be the last school in there just because of their rubric number 21, and going by sevens, right? And trying to help facilitate some, I don't want to say crossovers, but some non-league games. But again, they can't go there. El Dorado, number 22, also cannot go there to the 5A. They were also a 3A school last year. And so once we get past 21 and 22 being fixed there in the 4A as far as they can go, based on rubric points, as I state publicly, I have no intentions coming from my office to mandate that any other school would take Rancho's place in the 5A Division III. I don't think that would be fair to any other school there. So what it does in the 4A is it now creates 2 leagues of 7. Instead of a league of 7, a league of 6, it creates 2 leagues of 7. And I think that's just fine. And I think we're going to have some great games in the 4A with those 2 leagues, and leading ultimately to play each other, you know, from cross leagues in a playoff system in the South. I think it's great. So I think that that's where those teams go. Obviously, when you re-serpentine things, with El Dorado now being the top team in the 4A based on rubric points, starting in League A, which we've named as the Desert League, that did change some of the league structure. So Desert League and Mountain League, for half of the teams that are in here, did switch. Now, only half of them. Half of them stayed in the league that they were originally proposed, and the other half switched because the serpentine method, you can see it goes 21 goes to League A, 22 and 23 go to League B, 24, 25 go back to League A, et cetera, et cetera. I know, just a personal comment for Western Cadence. I don't want to speak on behalf of those 2 schools, but I can say that they were very excited to have each other in the same league. You know, part of the appeal process from earlier, back in the previous process, was for those 2 schools kind of hand in hand to appeal together. Even though they're not listed in a Desert League and a Mountain League, they will still get to play each other, you know, in a non-league game, right? If you did something like that between the Desert League and the Mountain League and the 4A, and you took the buys of 7 and 7, both those teams being at the by rubric points at the bottom of those leagues to start off with, you know, that's a perfect fit for a non-league game anyway. So that helps their schedule with one other game. So anyway, I haven't seen any other appeals, again, with regards to the Class 4A from principals, athletic administrators, athletic directors. There's been no other contact at this point, but I wanted to make sure that everybody saw what was happening in the 4A, just based on the new serpentine. And again, that's just mathematics. That's all it is, based on points. So any other questions about the 4A South? Okay, with that then, Mr. Davis, if you would, let's go to the 3A South. Same thing here. This hasn't changed. You know, again, the idea was to have all teams potentially make playoffs. And if the 3A South, and we'll get to 3A North later, wants to have 6 teams instead of 8 to be more restrictive, they can do that. I like the idea of having teams get that playoff games, but I realize in a 17 league, having a number 1 have a bye against a number 8. So, you know, we talk about 5A Division 1 and 2. Having a number 1 seed get a bye for not playing number 8 to maybe have those games not be that drastically different in a first round playoff game. And then obviously in 5A Division 3 now with 6 teams, you know, you got 1 and 2 getting byes. So those first round playoff games are going to be very good there. This goes for the 3A South is, you know, I know the 3A South is talking about having number 1 versus number 8 possibly in a first round quarterfinal game not being competitive, and that schools in that league might vote to have 6 teams only. That's fine. That takes care of that. And then also getting back to Mr. Larson's comment about the potential for state crossovers. Right now, our intent is to have 2 years in Allegiant Stadium. And that's why the proposal is to have a 3A South versus a 3A North in the state championship game, 1-1. If something happens and we end up getting word sooner than later, or however that works out with Allegiant, and we get into having a northern site and having to have a different rotation for state championship games, then I think we can look back to playoff formats for football with a different idea and bring it back to the table. So for today, for proposing state formats, my intent is to still have, again, Allegiant for 2 years in a row and have a North versus South final game only in the Class 3A. So any questions with regards to the 3A South? And Mr. Larson, did I address your comment?
Yeah, that's exactly just some feedback I had from the last meeting when there was, I guess, a coaches association meeting that happened, and there was some talk about the 3A. There was no way the 3A would be able to play in Allegiant because of the number of games being played. And so I just had some people questioning if that would change the state tournament bracket. So thank you, Donnie, for that. I appreciate it. My other, there's been some talk too about the protective status, but in football, everyone is under enrollment protection in the 3A. This is all about all these schools listed here are under that 1,300 enrollment number, and thus are in that protected status. The Meadows came from the 2A to the 3A because their numbers were above the bottom of two, or above the top of 2A, moved up to 3A. So Meadows moved because of enrollment, not because of winning a championship in the 2A. So I just want to make sure that was understood about the 3A for anyone listening.
Listening.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. I appreciate it. Before we exit the South to our private and our charter school liaisons, Mr. Walter, on behalf of the private schools, anything that you have comments on for the South alignments?
I don't have any comment at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Kofer, again, addressing the South, 5A, 1, 2, 3, 4A, and 3A South setups, and anything on behalf of the charter schools that you see, Mr. Kofer?
Yeah, there are no, haven't received any communication that anything is out of whack with regards to charter schools in this scenario.
Thank you. And we'll do an all call at the end of this. So we'll go through. I want to make sure I get Mr. Gerzon, Mr. McPartlin, Ms. Sloan back into the mix, as well as commenting on behalf of the greater picture when we get to that at the end, if that's okay with the three of you. We'll get you, certainly get you back in. Okay. Mr. Davis, if you would, then let's go to 5A 2 North, please. And again, this 5A 2 North will match up with the 5A 2 South in a state championship game. Played out, 1 and 2s get buys. There will be movement of only one team between the 5A 2 North and the 5A 3 North. Just one team up, one team down on a year cycle. And that was originally designed because of 6 teams and having fewer number of schools in the North. I felt like moving 2 teams was a little bit too drastic. Whereas we have more teams in the South, more competitive balance, generally speaking, within the 5A, 4A, and in the South. So 2 teams was justified, but here it's one team of movement. Mr. Anderson, Art Anderson, anything for you, sir, on behalf of the 5A 2 North or 5A 3 North?
No further comment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stallworth, we'll get back to you as well when we get towards the end of this. So I'll make sure I bring you back in the picture. Let's go to the 3A North then. Thank you, Mr. Davis. And same thing here with about teams making the playoffs. That Mr. Parks was echoing what Mr. Larson said earlier in our last meeting about maybe not necessarily that the 3A North would want all 8 teams making the playoffs, because again, 1 versus 8 might be not as competitive in a first round, a quarterfinal game within the Northern region. And so possibly the league, and it's not finalized yet, but the league would be possibly going to more restrictive of 6 teams only, and top 2 would get buys. And then that first round would be really good, you know, 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5, and then playing back into the semifinals with 1 and 2s after that. So Mr. Parks, anything on your end for 3A North?
Yeah, I mean, our schedule's done now with the first, the Hall of Fame game available, then all the buys, if all this is approved by the board. And our plan, we meet tomorrow to go over a lot of things, but our plan will be the top 6, the first round bye, 1 and 2 like we've had, and play into a Northern regional champion versus the Southern champ. If you guys change that, that week will be a crossover instead.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, with that then, before we wrap things up, Mr. Stallworth, anything from your office with regards to the overall setup of what we have here?
Nope, everything looks good here. I know that in talking to the superintendents and my bosses, their biggest concern was just making sure that they wanted to see the financial impact of taking 2 more teams from the region to state, and what that impact's going to look like, if that's a possibility, if that were to happen. And we discussed that. So they approved it. They like it. They love the opportunity for more schools to participate. So we're good to go. See what happens for the next 2 years.
All right, excellent. Ms. Sloan, from your office, anything on the overall setup of what we have in football here?
No, we're good. We're good. I like the direction in which we're going. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. McFarland, any comments from you?
No, we're good. It's been a long haul, but we're as good as we can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gerzon, anything from you, Ron?
Nothing new, Donnie, except to say that our colleagues down in the 5A, 4A South were very, very intrigued and appreciative of the opportunity to realign teams after just 1 year of seeing this alignment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. 1A and 2A liaisons, I just want to make sure I'm not missing something. If you see something from the outside, I won't call you individually. Put your hand up in the screen there if you want to be heard. Otherwise, I'll give you a few seconds. If not, then we'll advance on.
Mike Strong here, one
Sure.
A liaison. I was kind of wondering here, Douglas, obviously, struggled with this process with us a bit, but if I remember right, Douglas was okay with this 5A3 North. Is that correct? I mean, it's their second best option, but I remember hearing them saying that they were okay with that.
Yes, and again, my understanding, Donnie Nelson staff, is that they are in full agreement with this.
Good deal, thank you.
Yeah, that's the understanding that we had in the north as well.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay, Douglas, if you're listening and I'm missing something, this is your last chance to send me a text. We could bring you into the room, I guess, but I don't think I'm missing anything. So I'm logging in, making sure I don't see any other last little texts or anything else. No. Okay. With that said, I don't think we have any other comments. Then this is up for action. This is to approve it and to take forward to the Board of Control on an emergency meeting on March 2nd for final approval. So Chair Stahl, will turn it over to you. Looking for a motion to approve as presented.
So good. I'm looking for a motion to approve agenda item 9.
Ray Parks, Northern 3A, I'd make a motion to approve this to be taken to the Board of Control.
Dallas Larson, 3A South. I'll second that motion.
We have a first and a second. Are there further questions or discussions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
All right. Let's go to number 10, and this is just commentary from my office. As you know, we have a vacancy in the 4A, 5A South voting position. My intent is to now, following this meeting, send out communication to all of our 3A, 4A, 5A, our 4A, 5A Southern schools and seeking, in essence, nominations to fill that position. I know that there has been plenty of discussion going on out there. That's probably just leave it at that, but I have not done an official submit a name recommendation and then otherwise vetted anybody to the committee. And it wasn't going to happen at this meeting either. What I want people to know who are listening to this, when you are interested, if someone is interested in having this 4A, 5A South voting position, this is a major commitment. And I understand that this person understands. If you're out there thinking, hey, I want to send an email to Donnie starting tomorrow, and I'm interested in filling this position and have him vet amongst the other people, eventually going to the Board of Control, who would be to fill this position. As you all know as committee members, the time, energy, and effort in doing this is tremendous, especially when you get a sport that sometimes takes a little longer outside the normal auspice of every other sport. But our entire realignment process is a tremendous undertaking. The communications that have to be had with principals, athletic administrators, athletic directors, and even to some point, there might be relations, developed, communicated to coaches as well. So when a person assumes this position on the realignment committee, you are responsible for the committees in your league or region, and you need to serve them to the very best of your abilities. This is not something where you're going to come in with a personal vendetta or something. You've got a gigantic task ahead of you. So I always want to make that very clear. Again, that notification email will go out very soon, if not tomorrow, probably Wednesday, and say, hey, we're now looking to fill this position, take nominations, and then we'll go from there. So this position will be eventually recommended by our office, by me. That's kind of how it goes to the Board of Control. But again, I will do a lot of input and due diligence and communicate to a lot of people about vetting who some of those people are, and they won't become public. We'll get a finalist or two or whatever it is to the Board of Control, and we'll go from there at some point. So any questions from any of our committee members about number 10, filling that vacancy? Okay, again, I'm not bringing any names forward today. That's not what this is. So I just want, that's just for discussion. Okay. With that said, then, Mr. Chair Stallworth, I'm going to turn it back over to you for number 11. And if you just want to ask anybody, if there's any, again, concerns, suggestions from the committee moving forward after today. I think we've addressed everything, but again, I want to make sure that everybody is heard one last time, especially since we've just basically approved football alignment moving forward. So I know that there would be any, but I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody's last comment. So Chair Stallworth, if you want to ask that question, I'll let you do it, please.
Well, again, any concerns or suggestions? I'm glad that we're crossing that finish line. This has been a extremely long journey, and it was started off as a sprint, then it went kind of into a marathon, and finished up in a little bit of a sprint. But I like the work that everyone did and the commitment they went through it. And I don't think we've ever could come up with a perfect plan, but at least we have 2 years and basically a year to kind of see how this works and get going after the conclusion of this year, with our conclusion of the final winter season and coming into the spring. So wish us luck, babe. I think we did a good job.
Thank you. Anybody else? Going once? Twice? I don't see any hands up. All right, Chair Stallworth, back to you. If you would read number 12, please. We'll go to public comment.
Okay, public comment. This time provides an opportunity for citizens to address the committee about any matter not on the agenda. Item raised during this portion of the agenda cannot be deliberated or acted upon until compliance with notice procedures of the open meeting law has been accomplished. Members of the public who wish to submit their comment via email were instructed to contact Tia Wonder prior to the meeting and have their comments read into the record. Members of the public that are present need to complete a green public comment card and submit it to the administrative assistant prior to the opening of this item. A limit of 3 minutes per person and of 5 minutes for the spokesperson of a group will be imposed for both in-person and emailed comments. It is requested that comments be directed to the committee as a whole. Comments that are determined to be irrelevant, repetitious, offensive, inflammatory, willfully disruptive, or deemed to be personal attacks will not be permitted. Public comments received by email will be read into the record. Live public comments, if any, will be requested. If any have been requested, will be heard. Come one, come all. This is your last chance, Tia.
I have nothing in my inbox.
Any locations out there with any public comment via email and/or your location?
Yep, I have not seen anything on mine either. Just did a final check for any communications. So
I
I have nothing.
I am looking one more time, and nothing on mine as well.
all right. Well, I think we have been hopefully as a group as transparent as possible from A to Z. And that's been a long haul of football. So with that, Chair Stallworth, I think we go to adjournment. Go ahead, call us off.
Thank you very much, and this meeting is adjourned.